What's up, snappers? Welcome back to the channel. DDDREWSKY here. Today we're gonna be looking at the brand new card Malekith to see if he's worth your precious resources. We're gonna be looking at his key synergies, counters, and some decks that I brewed for him. But wait, before we do that, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 1,000 subs of the channel. I do weekly reviews of the brand new card in Marvel Snap. You don't want to miss out, so hit that notification bell. Now let's get back into it. So now the question is, who is Malekith? Let's take a look. So Malekith in Marvel Snap is a 4-cost, 6-powered card with the ability of on reveal add 1 or 2 or 3 cost card from your deck here. It reveals at the end of the game. So I believe his ability is very unique. It's very similar to Supergiant in a way. You can, cheat out cards, especially the 1, 2, and 3 cost cards. Very, very unique ability. I think it's very tricky. You could definitely confuse your opponent. All right, now let's take a look at the pros and cons about Malekith. Let's take a look. The first pro about him is that he's a great power at 4 costs. 6 is usually a above rate or on par with 4 costs, so definitely good power for him. Another pro about him is that he thins out a card from the deck. So I don't know if you guys remember old Chavez, but old Chavez was a deck thinner. Very, very strong ability in Marvel Snap. Again, he is a little bit of a late card thinner because he is a 4-cost card. Again, you can maybe thin him out early if you run Zabu potentially. But yeah, definitely there is some potential there with him deck thinning. Another pro about him is that he can surprise the opponent. The card that he brings out, of course, gets revealed at the end of the game. So the opponent is going to be confused, right? Because 1 to 3 cost cards, there's a huge range of what it could be, right? The surprise factor is really, really good for this card. Another pro about him is that the card reveals at the end of the game. Just like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of cards that can potentially benefit from being played at the end of the game, which I'll show later in this video. But yeah, definitely it's a great pro about him. So now let's talk about the cons. So he's very deck dependent. So you have to make sure you surround him with the right cards. Again, you want to make sure you have 1 to 3 cost cards. You are okay with them getting cheated out early, and you want to make sure their ability is okay to be run at the end of the game, right? Another con is that 1 to 3 cost range is RNG still. I believe that, again, it is a little bit of targeted when it's a 1 to 3 cost card, but it is heavily reliant on RNG, right? Like, you don't have the control of which card actually comes out from your deck. And I didn't really mention this as a con, but you do have to probably run a tracker or make sure you know what is left in your deck, right? If you're playing on mobile, it's going to be very tough when you don't know what's going to be coming out from your deck. Another con about him is that he's a competitive 4-cost turn. I say this as, like, do you really need his ability at 4 cost or the 4th turn? Are there other situations where you want to run other low-cost cards during that turn? So his ability is very niche, so it depends on your build with him. But again, the 4 cost or the 4th turn is very, very crucial in Marvel Snap. Another con about him is that you have to watch out for the rocks added to your deck. So a counter that I will mention in later in the video. If there's potential any rocks added to your deck, again, his ability will bring out a rock, right? Potential 1-cost rock, that is brutal. So that's a huge negative about Malekith. All right, now let's look at some of the key synergies and counters for Malekith. Let's take a look. So the first synergy that I want to bring up is Hitmonkey. Malekith is great to pull a Hitmonkey because Hitmonkey loves to be played at the last turn of the game. All the cards that you play on the final turn, it will definitely count towards Hitmonkey. So there's potential there. For Rogue is another synergy that I mentioned with Malekith. She is kind of a symbol for a potential counter card that you want to run at the end of the game. I think Rogue is great for the final turn because, again, if they're running like an ongoing list, if Malekith pulls Rogue, Rogue will trigger at the end of the game, right? So Rogue will steal like a great ongoing power, maybe like an Iron Man, Darkhawk. So I think that potential is great right there. Maximus is another great hit for Malekith because, again, you don't want that ability to trigger off during the game. So making sure that he runs at the end of the game is great, right? It doesn't really hurt you that much, and you know, that's a great stat line, right? 2/6 is amazing. So now let's talk about the counters. So Alioth is a huge counter to Malekith. The card that he brings is going to be unrevealed, right? So if your opponent has Prio, Alioth will love that unrevealed card. So you want to be careful of Alioth. Cosmo, again, is a great counter to Malekith. Malekith is on reveal, so Cosmo, again, will counter Malekith. And then for Rock Slide is just a symbol for, you know, potential cards that throw in cards in your deck, just like Korg. But Rock Slide is going to be nasty because he adds 2 1-cost rocks to your opponent's deck. So if you get Rock Slide, be careful of using Malekith because Malekith can definitely bring out a rock, and you do not want that at all. All right, now let's take a look at some of the decks that I brewed for Malekith. I think they're pretty fun and competitive. Let's take a look. So the first deck is called Malekith's Dark Thoughts. So the goal of this deck is to flood your opponent's hand and cause disruption, right? So for turn 1, Nebula, Spireham are great picks for turn 1. Nebula is great to, you know, ramp up in power, and then Spireham is a great disruptive card at 1 cost. For turn 2, you want to do either Master Mold. Probably you want to save Shadow King and Maximus for the later turns, but Master Mold is great on curve, you know, to add those Sentinels to your opponent's hand. Negasonic is, you know, potentially great for on curve, or she could be played later in the game, especially if you have Prio. Red Guardian is great, probably at the end of the game as well. But he's, you know, if depending on the situation, if they have a really good low cost card, then you want to use Red Guardian on curve. Gladiator is mainly used for potentially at the end of the game, but you know, his power is immense. If you're feeling lucky, then you could definitely run Gladiator on curve. Supergiant with the Malekith on turn 4, potential either one of those. They have very similar effects, but I kind of wanted to stay on theme with the cards are not being revealed. So there is potential chaos here, right? So the opponent won't know what to do if you're running Supergiant or potentially Malekith, right? So Malekith, again, is great on turn 4 because you can, you know, get potential cards like Gladiator, Maximus, Negasonic, for example, even Red Guardian. They're all good picks. Master Mold is amazing as well. There's a lot of low cost cards here that Malekith can get. Ronin is great here because of the hand flooding. So Master Mold, Maximus. Alioth is amazing with this deck too because, again, he has Alioth has synergy with Malekith and Supergiant. Depending if you have Prior or not, Alioth is a great finisher for the opponent's unrevealed cards. So if they have unrevealed cards there, Alioth will just eat all those cards up. So now let's take a look at the second list. So the next list we have is called Malekith's Mind Control. The goal of this deck basically ramp up in power and then counter what the opponent is playing. But for turn 1, Kitty Pryde is amazing. For turn 2, you want to do either Athena or potentially Kitty Pryde again. Angela is great on turn 2 as well. The order of priority for turn 2 would probably be Agent Venom, Angela, or Athena. Kitty Pryde gets all the value from either Athena or Angela, so I love that synergy, so they're great in this deck. Mysterio is great with Hitmonkey, especially. You probably want to save Mysterio for Hitmonkey. For turn 3, you want to save probably Sage and Rogue for the last turns. This deck, just a reminder, is great on just losing Prio, and then at the final turn you can counter what the opponent is playing. For turn 3, Killmonger, depending on, you know, what the situation is, Killmonger is great to counter a lot of the 1-cost cards, but again, you probably want to save him for like probably the last few turns. Shang-Chi is a great counter, of course, you know, destroying all those big cards. Malekith is a great, you know, addition to this deck if you want to potentially get like Hitmonkey or even Rogue, Sage. Those are all great hits. The other ones are not as good, but those are primarily like the main targets for this deck with Malekith. And then Sarah is a great cost reducer. You definitely want to run Sarah if you can. Overall, this deck, you want to lose Prio and then just counter whatever that the opponent is playing. Now let's take a look at the third and final list. So this deck is called Malekith Hawks. So the idea of this deck is to add rocks to your opponent's deck and then reap the benefits of it, right? Turn 1, Silver Sable or Korg or Nico are great choices for the first turn. So for turn 2, Agent Venom is great with this deck. Potentially could hit Cassandra Nova, Mystique, or Iron Man. Even Darkhawk, those are great picks for him. Cassandra Nova is great depending on if you're facing like an Airshim list or any type of list. But on turn 3, you know, she's great on curve. You probably want to save Mystique and Rogue on turn 3 because they're more, you know, complementary cards. Mystique is great to copy like Iron Man or Darkhawk, but make sure she is played on the final turn. Rogue, again, is great to counter any of the ongoing list. Cosmo is great to counter anything that's on reveal. You could either play the dog on curve or, the final turn. Rock Slide is a great trio with Darkhawk and Korg, so definitely is great in that package. And then Malekith is great in this deck because you could potentially hit like Cosmo, Rogue, or even Mystique. There are a lot of cards in this deck that definitely can benefit from him. Iron Man is amazing. Iron Man's a lane winner, so definitely you could pair up Iron Man with Mystique. And then Darkhawk, of course, is a great card in this list because he's paired up with Korg and Rock Slide. All right, now let's take a look at some of the spotlights that are featured with Malekith. Let's take a look. So Malekith is with Thena and Valentina. Malekith is a Series 5, Thena is a Series 5, and Valentina is a Series 5. So if you don't own any of these cards, this is a great use of your spotlight keys. Definitely go for them if you don't have any of these cards. But I'm going to be explaining why some of the cards can be passed. Thena is great. She is definitely a staple if you love like low cost cards that grow in power. She is amazing. I say if you don't have her, definitely go get her. Valentina is good, but I would say is very niche. She's not really a necessity to really have, honestly. She's definitely could be replaced by cards like Cable, Mirage. There's other, card generation cards that could be replaced with her. So I always say she's definitely not a must-have. For the Spotlight variants, I actually do like the Malekith variant. I think it's actually not bad. It looks very menacing. For Thena and the Valentina variants, I'm not huge on. I think Thena's the first Spotlight variant was much better. Valentina's variant's okay. It's based on the MCU. I would say it's definitely could be considered a pass. So just as a friendly reminder, make sure you have 4 keys before opening in a week. You do not want to miss out on a brand new card or a card that you're missing. So make sure you have 4. All right, now let's look at the star ratings that I gave for Malekith. Let's take a look. So for competitive, I gave him a 2.5 stars. I think he's going to be somewhat okay, but honestly, I think he's going to be pretty much like a good surprise card, but overall, I think his competitiveness is not going to be like the best, honestly. For fun, I gave him a 3 stars. Again, it depends on what you pull from him. If you pull like a really good 1 to 3 cost card, then definitely a lot of joy, right? But there could be a lot of potential bad hits, so I gave him a 3 stars right there. For flexibility, 2.5 stars. You could tell by the decks that I brewed for him. He's gonna be very niche on his ability on what he can do, but overall, I don't see him going in every single deck. For future changes, I gave him a 2 stars. I could see him potentially maybe getting buffed in the future, but I don't really see a lot of changes happen to a lot of the new cards lately. So, we'll see. All right, let's take a look at my final review of Malekith. Is he worth a snap or skip? Let's take a look. So I say skip on Malekith. I think his ability is very, very niche. I think it has some potential to cheat out, cards out early. But honestly, those cards that get cheat out early, you usually want to play them on curve, right? Or you want to play them out early. So I don't see the potential there. I could be completely wrong, but let me know your thoughts on Malekith. Let me know if I'm missing any synergies, counters, or potential decks that he could be in. Remember, if you haven't yet, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 1,000 subs at the channel, and I would love for you to be a part of it. And again, I'll see you guys on the next Snap or Skip. Happy snapping.